You know, I want to start this week's show a little differently. Not with standings or stats, but with some honesty. Doing an NBA podcast, man, it's hard. It's really hard. I think a lot of people see the highlights, the quick clips, the viral rants, the clean transitions, and they think, yeah, I could do that. And honestly, I used to think that way too. I thought if you love basketball enough, if you've got the passion and the insight, it just flows. But the truth is, this grind will humble you fast. I tried doing daily casts early on. Daily. Every morning, news drops, mic on, talk hoops. Simple, right? But it doesn't work that way. The research, the editing, the writing, the voice work, the fact checking, it all takes time. And time doesn't care about your passion. Time doesn't care about your deadline. It doesn't care about your job, your kids, or significant others. The NBA moves faster than any other league. Every night there's a new storyline, a new injury, a new controversy, a new trade rumor. Keeping up isn't the hard part. Keeping up while producing something worth listening to is. And that's where I'll be real with you. I've fallen short a few times. Our division predictions, a week later than I wanted. Our schedule, it's out of sync. There are nights where I've been staring at notes at 2 a.m. trying to find the right words that feel true, not just sound right. Podcasting, especially in this lane, isn't about talking. It's about caring. It's about doing the homework, watching those midweek Pacers-Hornets games that nobody else watches, checking the details, reading between the box scores. It's about saying something real when everyone else is just trying to say something loud. So yeah, I'll admit it. I was unprepared for the scale of this thing. I thought I could juggle production, scripting, analytics, and still have it out on time like a machine. But this isn't a machine. It's therapy with a bounce. And therapy takes time. It takes thought. It takes a willingness to show up when the results aren't instant. But here's the thing. The beauty of it, you grow through the grind. Every late night, every rescheduled upload, every moment of I'm not sure this one's ready yet, it all makes you sharper. It reminds you that consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means passion with endurance. So as we jump into this new episode, our first full week in review, I want to dedicate this episode to all the creators out there trying to stay afloat in the noise, whether it's basketball or any other passion. Thank you for bringing your creativity to the world. But I especially want to dedicate it to all the ones that are the hoop heads, making clips in their basement, editing on their phones, trying to balance life and the league. I see you. I am you. This show's been a work in progress, and honestly, that's the point. It's about the love of the game, the grind behind the mic, and the fact that we're still here, still talking, still learning, still chasing that perfect mix of hoop knowledge and humanity. All right, I've said my piece. Let's get back to business. The NBA's already cooking. Upsets, injuries, scandals, everything. So let's break down everything that went down between October 21st and the 28th. You're tuned in to Roundball Rants. All right, so let's roll into what actually happened on the court between October 21st and the 28th. Because the early season's supposed to be a warm-up, but man, it's already given us storylines that matter. We kicked off October 21st with the Los Angeles Lakers at home taking on the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors walked away with a 119-109 win. Big headlines included a 43-point explosion from Luka, and he was doing it with the Lakers still missing LeBron James. LeBron sidelined with sciatica, watching from the bench. The Warriors' supporting pieces showed up too. 23 from Steph Curry, 31 from Jimmy Butler, and they looked sharp in a hostile road spot. That tells you Golden State still shows up. LA, meanwhile, is navigating a transition with key pieces out already. If you fast forward to October 24th, the Lakers again made headlines, this time defeating the Minnesota Timberwolves 128-110. Luka still cooking, 49 points this game, 11 rebounds and 8 assists. He's on a ridiculous early run. But for Minnesota, this one stung. They saw a blowout loss and their star, Anthony Edwards, exited early with a tight hamstring. That game exposed the Wolves' margin for error. You lose Edwards, or he's hobbled, suddenly you're in deep. Then October 26th, the Toronto Raptors visited the Mavericks and lost 139-129. A wild, high-scoring affair. Dallas found offensive rhythm. Toronto couldn't contain the perimeter bursts. It's early, but if you're the Raptors, you're thinking this defense needs work. If you're the Mavericks, you're thinking we might be closer than what we thought. Also during the weekend, the Detroit Pistons pulled off a win over the Boston Celtics, 119-113. Detroit's young guys showed up. Cade Cunningham dropped 25, Jalen Duran with 24, and they held off Boston's late push. Jaylen Brown had a monster 41 for Boston. It's a sign that the youth movement is tasty, but the older core defense isn't automatic anymore. By October 28th, other games filled the slate, like the Los Angeles Clippers visiting Golden State. Again, Warriors hosting, the league watching. The early waters are showing who's comfortable and who's still scratching their head from the preseason. But what stands out from the week? Well, a few things. Stars still showing up. Luka had 49. Curry and Butler doing their thing in Golden State. Injuries already making waves. Edwards exiting early, LeBron out, Lakers navigating without key pieces. Young teams stepping up. Detroit is scary. Chicago is scary. Dallas looked legit. Minnesota's potential is obvious, just the pieces aren't all there yet. Defense, or lack thereof, is a theme. 139-129, 119-113, porous behind the scenes. Teams are saying, we'll score for sure, but can we stop you? That's the bigger question. Early season games mean something. They matter for momentum, yes, but they also show who's built for the grind and who's still glossed up for the preseason. So this recap sets the tone. We're far from the finish line, but the map is starting to draw itself. Some teams are already on the rise, some are already scrambling, and some are carrying big question marks. But we're all watching. Now as we move from the scoreboards to the sidelines, because early in the season, health isn't just a background detail. It's a storyline of its own. And this week, delivered some hits that already matter. First up, Maxi Kleber. On October 21st, the Los Angeles Lakers announced that Kleber will be out for at least 2 weeks with an oblique strain. He'll be reevaluated around then. That might seem like a minor note, but for a team already dealing with other absences, this chips away at front court depth and veteran stability. Then if you move over to the Houston Rockets and the Fred VanVleet situation, on the 21st, the injury report confirmed he's out for the season after a torn ACL. Not just a blow for Houston's rotation, a signal for a contending team that they're starting without one of their key guards. Then the Oklahoma Thunder were hit too. On the opener, October 21st, it was announced they'd be without Jalen Williams and Isaiah Joe, among others. These are rotational players, not fringe guys. And a title defending roster can't treat those outs like minor hiccups. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, the news dropped on October 27th. Anthony Edwards left his game early with a hamstring issue and will miss a few weeks. That one really stings. A team built around him can't have the stars sidelined in week 2. And from the Phoenix Suns side, Jalen Green was ruled out on October 23rd for at least a couple of games with a hamstring strain. A young guard on a team trying to keep ahead. That absence is meaningful. Here are some themes that you need to hear. Early game absences matter. We're 2 weeks into the season, and already squads are missing their contributors. Depth becomes your identity. The teams that lose rotation players and don't adapt, they will fall behind fast. Stars also being limited matters. It's not just role players. The Edwards situation shows you how a team's ceiling shifts when the lead guy is hobbled. And injuries aren't just physical, they're mental. When you open the season with a sub-full roster, you're already playing catch-up on chemistry and rhythm. For you as a fan, watch how your team responds. Are they resilient? Do they shift their strategy? Or do they get derailed? Because this early in the season, these setbacks can linger. And in a league this competitive, a small wobble now can mean a big gap later. All right, that's the injury side for the week. Up next, we'll dive into one story off the court that might matter more than any game this week: the gambling scandal. Stay with me. Now, let's move on to the part of the week that didn't happen on the court, but is going to echo far beyond it. This week, the league wasn't just dealing with injuries, surprises, and early season storylines. It got hit with a shakeup that may be one of the most serious credibility tests in its modern era. A federal gambling investigation that wraps around players, a coach, organized crime, and the very foundations of why we trust what we see in a basketball game. Here's how it unfolded. On October 23rd, 2025, early in the evening, the headlines broke. Terry Rozier, guard for the Miami Heat, was arrested in Florida by the Federal Bureau of Investigations. Almost simultaneously, in Portland, Oregon, Chauncey Billups, head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers and a Hall of Fame player, was also arrested. These weren't isolated cases. They were part of a sprawling indictment covering dozens of defendants across multiple states. What makes this so alarming is the nature of these allegations. One accusation is that inside information, things like a player's plan to sit out a game, an injury that wasn't made public, or a coach's strategic intent, was shared with bettors who used it to win big. For example, federal documents allege that Rozier provided non-public data about his game status so that others could wager accordingly. On the Billups side, the case points to a rigged underground poker game ran by multiple members of the mafia crime families. A scheme that the government says used technology, marked cards, hidden cameras to steal from players and wire money through gambling networks. But let's rewind a little bit further back for a full timeline so we understand how this came to light. In early 2023, around February and March, law enforcement sources say bets were placed based on undisclosed information about players and games in the NBA. One example flagged was a game where a star player was going to sit out, but that was not public knowledge, allowing insiders to wager accordingly. In January of 2025, the league had already begun investigating certain players, including Rozier, for unusual betting patterns. At the time, the NBA announced it found no violation of its internal rules. But then on October 23, 2025, we get public arrests and sweeping indictments. Immediately following came league responses, congressional inquiries, and a media storm. Here's how the public and institutional responses went. The NBA, via Commissioner Adam Silver, described himself as deeply disturbed. He said the league was cooperating with authorities and that maintaining integrity was his top concern. Congress jumped in fast. On October 28th, a letter from the Senate Commerce Committee demanded that the NBA brief them on how it handles injury information, how it monitors betting risks, and how it protects the game's credibility. Around the same time, the NBA issued a memo to all 30 teams, warning of dire risks posed by legalized sports betting, especially prop bets on player performance, and exploring the use of artificial intelligence and data monitoring to flag suspicious activity. Why does this matter beyond the headlines? Because when players, coaches, or insiders leverage non-public information to bet, or when someone rigs poker games using heavyweight technology and organized crime backing, you're not just talking about rule breaking. You're talking about the foundational trust that fans, players, and broadcasters place in the integrity of the sport. If someone thinks a coach might be pulling starters to help gamblers, or a player might underperform because a bet depends on it, the product is tainted. And once that trust erodes, the game will change for everyone. In many ways, this is an inevitable collision. The NBA opened the door, or at least swung it wide, to legal sports betting partnerships. In-arena betting lounges, player endorsements of sports books, but with that exposure comes vulnerability. Analysts have argued that the league invited this risk when the scoreboard started looking like a stock ticker and fan focus split between players and parlays. What are the implications heading forward? First, teams are going to have to face pressure to tighten injury reporting protocols. If leaks or ambiguous disclosures lead to bettors making money, that's a warp in fairness. Second, the monitoring of prop bets will escalate. The league's memo specifically cited those bets as higher risk. Third, the culture within organizations will be scrutinized more than ever. What happens on team flights, in locker rooms, around the poker tables? The allegations suggest that some of that has been less than pristine. And fourth, there may be reputational damage. Players alleged in these cases, coaching staffs involved, franchises under investigation, all of this carries weight in recruiting, broadcasting, sponsorships. From a listener's vantage point, this isn't just another off-court issue. This could shape the entire season. It could affect how games are played, how available players are used, how injuries and rest days are communicated, how bettors view matchups, and how much trust you put in officials when a game doesn't go your way. For your team, it may mean scrutiny you didn't see before. Every lineup change, every rest night, every injured player, it'll be watched through a new lens. So here's the bottom line. The NBA didn't just face a typical breaking news this week. It got hit with a crisis of integrity. How it responds will matter just as much as what happened. Because you can build a squad, you can sign stars, you can fill arenas, but once people believe the game can be manipulated, you lose more than a title shot. You lose belief. And for us, exploring this week from October 21 to 28, we saw games, we saw injuries, yes, but this scandal might be the story that lasts far longer than any scoreline. Stay tuned. We'll wrap this episode up in a moment with reflections, what to watch next, and how you as a fan can navigate this new terrain of uncertainty and excitement. And you know, after a week like this, it's hard not to step back and think about what this league really is. Because yeah, it's basketball. It's talent, it's matchups, it's X's and O's, but it's also fragile. It's built on trust. The trust that the score means something, that the injuries are real, that the competition is pure. And that's why this week hit different. We had the highs, the Thunder staying hot, the Wolves scraping, the early season fireworks, but we also had the lows, stars going down, teams already limping out of the gate, and now this scandal that reminds us, no matter how bright the lights are, shadows still exist behind the curtain. But here's the thing I keep coming back to. Basketball endures. It always does. The game finds a way to rise above the noise, above the chaos, and above the doubts. The players who love it play through it. The fans who live it stick with it. And for people like us, the ones who talk about it, write about it, lose sleep, editing episodes just to share the love of the game, this is a reminder of why we do it. Because this sport gives us something deeper than headlines. It gives us a community. It gives us rhythm. It gives us those nights where you forget everything else going on because you're watching a kid like Chet Holmgren do something unreal or Luka go for 49 like it's nothing. It reminds you why you fell in love with it in the first place. So as this week wraps up, yeah, there's a lot to sort out. The league's got work to do. The players have stories to write. And we've got another week of hoops to live through. But for tonight, let's just appreciate what it is. A game worth caring about, even when it's messy. Especially when it's messy. If you've been rocking with me through the predictions, through the late uploads, through the chaos, I see you, and I appreciate you. This show isn't perfect, but it's honest. It's from the heart. Next week, we'll keep the conversation going, the matchups, the moments, and the meaning behind it all. Until then, take care of yourselves, keep your heads up, and keep your love for the game alive. This is Roundball Rants. I'm Vincent Cooper, and remember, it's not just basketball, it's therapy with a bounce.